Hi, and welcome to our Talent Treasures. Our conversations are focused on top talents that are identified in the Clifton Strengths 34 tool. We interview friends about their strengths and how it helps them or it hinders in their daily lives. I am Laura Stott, Program Manager for Open Gate Consulting, and we are here today with our fearless leader, Nancy. We will be discussing her futuristic talent, which is number 3 of her top 5. So thanks for joining me, Nancy.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks, Laura. I'm looking forward to this.
Doing a little bit of a flop from what we usually do. So
That's right. That's right.
excellent. Well, just to give a little bit of background to talk about the futuristic talent, people high in this talent theme, they see the future in great detail and ask a lot of questions to help keep their teams moving forward. They also love to peer over the horizon and get energized by what the future could be. So let's get to it, Nancy.
All right.
What are some of the ways that you experience your futuristic talent throughout the day?
That's a great question, Laura. And as I was thinking about it, I think for me, it plays out in a lot of times really practical ways, in that I think if I were to sum it up, it's that I rarely miss a deadline because I'm always looking ahead on my calendar. I mean, even simple things like I have my calendar spread out in the 30-day mode because I'm always thinking, okay, what's going on next week? What do I got to be preparing for next week? And so I find my mind is often two or three steps ahead of probably what needs to be right in front of me. Is kind of the way it plays out. And then I just love to spend time, like when I get up in the morning and have my quiet time with my coffee, then that is often when my mind is probably tapping into whatever subconscious is going on throughout the night. But kind of just thinking about, oh, what are some of the things, I could be doing, or that, Open Gate could be doing. So a lot of those things are entering my mind throughout most of the day.
Okay. So it sounds like a little bit of kind of organization too, like trying to figure
Mm-hmm.
out what's coming up and how am I going
Mm-hmm.
to be able to meet that deadline, right? What do I need
That's
to
right.
meet it? So, a lot of futuristic.
Exactly.
Excellent. So you as a leader, right? You've been in a leadership position for a long time, lots of different, leadership opportunities that you've had. How do your futuristic tendencies help you motivate others? And kind of what steps do you take or have you taken or can you take to for that motivation?
Yeah, that was a harder one for me to think about. That's a harder question, I think, because I don't know that I consciously um, think, oh, let me play out the future for other people. I think it's just something that maybe happens subconsciously, and in that, the fact that I'm maybe talking about things that are coming up, or talking about ideas, or talking about future possibilities, my hope would be that that would be motivating for other people. But I don't know that I have like a conscious kind of way that I do that. But more interestingly, I mean, I would say, I'd be curious your reaction if that, if you find that you hear that at all when we talk and we have our conversation.
Oh yeah, it does. I mean, you and I are often talking about, okay, here's, what's coming up for Open Gate. Here's a new idea, right?
Hmm.
And because I like to learn new things and I like to help people, right? And figure out how to get things done. Those are all my strength. My top five strengths
Exactly.
is getting things done.
That's right.
I like hearing ideas, right? Or
Mhm.
seeing what the future could be because I don't tend to think about what it could be. I think about how can I get things done that need to get done now.
Mhm.
So be like, okay, so this is what Nancy wants to do in the
Mhm.
future. What do I need to like get done now to open up the
Mhm.
gates to do
Yeah,
that?
I like that.
Right? So
Good.
how can I help you, Nancy,
Mhm.
achieve that stuff that
Mhm.
you see in the future? Because we've got to get stuff done now to be able
Right.
to, improve and
Right.
and expand on our current projects
Right.
and things. So,
Well, and which is so, I mean, why I just love Clifton Strengths so much too, and why it's so fun for me, because yeah, you are high in those executing talents: activator, achiever, learner, developer. You get a lot of things. You're really good at making things happen. And so it's really gratifying for me to have a partner who can, yeah, kind of round out that circle, so to speak.
Good. We're a great
Mhm.
fit, it sounds like.
Yes.
So I want you to imagine that you are faced with a challenge,
Mm.
right? Because that never happens, right?
No, right?
Come up with a challenge.
Yes.
So how would you start to tackle a challenge using your futuristic talent?
Mm. That's a really good question too. And again, I think because it's number three for me, so it's so just subconscious that these are really interesting questions. It does force me to. It's funny. I'm used to asking the questions of other people. It's way harder when it's being asked of me. But how would I tackle a challenge or a problem? I think a lot of times I start out with just kind of brainstorming ideas, and also thinking about what's the end goal. I try to get a visual in my mind of what, yeah, the end goal would look like, and I think that, or what I want it to be. And I think that's a question oftentimes I'll ask folks that I'm working with, like, what outcome do you want to see? And I don't know if that's the futuristic in me or just my training, but I try to just focus on, yeah, what's the end goal, and then start kind of working backwards to kind of how are the steps to try to get there.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. So a little bit more of that kind of organization stuff, trying to, like you
Hmm.
said, take this. So if this is what we need,
Right.
how do we start the problem? So,
Right.
okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Excellent. So we've
Hmm.
talked a lot about, how it helps you, looking forward, being prepared, getting organized, kind of helping. Does being high in the futuristic theme ever get in your way or cause you problems?
Oh, that's now there's the $1 million question. And I laugh sometimes because sometimes I think my top talents get in my way more than they help me sometimes. So, but because I'm also, my number one is strategic. And so there's a lot of similarities with those two. But I would say, and I think you could probably comment on this one too, Laura, but I would say that futuristic, it's because my mind is always multi steps ahead. Again, I'm looking 3 weeks down the road. It leads to overwhelm
Mm,
really quickly. And that sense of, oh my gosh. And so I think people high in futuristic, at least for myself, it can get paralyzing at times, because
mm,
then your to-do
okay.
list gets so long and so overwieldy. And then you have to work really hard to prioritize all
Mm,
those kind of future things. And then really actively kind of set aside and say, okay, I can't think about this right now. I've got to focus on what's right in front of me. And so trying to really discipline myself to focus on, what do I have to do today? What do I have to get done now? Is kind of my challenge. So yeah, it gets in the way with just kind of overwhelm and sometimes feeling paralyzing. And why, again, like in the Clifton Strengths lingo, we talk about navigating around
mm,
our
yeah.
barriers and our weaknesses. And one of the ways we navigate is by finding people on our team who are good at the things that we're not. So again, where you're such a great partner in
Okay.
helping me kind of weed out and focus on, okay, what do we got to get done today? And having a partner like that really helps me.
Excellent. So that
Hmm.
kind of helped answer the next question I was thinking of, kind of what steps do you take to manage? You mentioned, having somebody who can help weed through stuff, right? So,
Right.
and then you also mentioned, like, all right, because your to-do list gets so overwhelming, right? You have to try to focus on what needs to happen now.
That's right.
Um, so any other steps you take to manage, that paralyzing of the futuristic, or what do you find helps you the most?
Yeah, I think I find, I mean, it's the folks that maybe do kind of decluttering type exercises. I really try to kind of clear out my space and make sure I don't have a lot of distractions in front of me, because I think that's part of the problem too, the visual distractions. Then I'm just kind of bouncing around between a sort of lot of different things. So yeah, just try to move any other stuff, get it filed away so I'm not looking at it, clear even the electronic, like close as many browser windows as I
Mhm.
can, things like that to just stay really focused on. And then another thing is kind of managing my time. Sometimes I'll try to calendar certain things on on my calendar. So it's okay, this hour I really want to be working on this. I don't overdo that because I find I could be spending all my time just calendaring tasks, and I don't want to do that. But sometimes if it's something I really want to focus on, I'll just block out the time and try to do that too. So,
Okay,
but it's a
excellent.
constant battle.
That they do get in those top talents do get in our way, huh?
Yes, yes, they can for sure.
Excellent. Well, it definitely is interesting to contrast some of the
Mhm,
themes. And you've mentioned both of this. So, for example,
mhm.
your talent theme of futuristic, which is your number three, is similar to
Mhm.
strategic, which is your
That's
number
right.
one.
That's right.
Both are considered, in these strategic themes as well.
Mhm.
So I'm going to give you two statements and just kind of let me know how it resonates with you. What do you think
Okay.
about it? So futuristic sees people in futuristic see a better world, and strategic they see a route that will take us to the better world.
Mhm. Oh, and that so fits. That, yeah, now as I think about it, so yes, the futuristic, like we talked earlier, is that getting that visual, that picture in my mind's eye of what I get excited about, which is why I'm one of those people. I mean, I facilitate a fair number of retreats for teams and executive teams, and I love being in that environment because that's a lot of times what you're doing is doing this brainstorming about your future. And so there's a lot of energy and excitement and getting that vision and pictured in everybody's mind. But then the strategic, that route that gets us there, I find, yeah, I'm always kind of putting all the pieces together. Okay, now what do we need to do? What do we need to do to get the plan? So I'm pretty good at like mapping out a plan or a strategy, but then it's where the, okay, now how do we get there? Right? And what are all the steps? So I think people high in strategic sometimes miss the can miss details. They can pull a lot of stuff together, but then miss details. And so yeah, those two statements really make a lot of sense to me.
Good. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so strategic sounds more like you said, the planning part of it, right? In
Mm-hmm.
the futuristic, you can see it. Strategic will
You
help
get
you
the
plan
vision.
to it, but then you're missing the like executing part of it. So
Exactly.
I need now,
Exactly.
how do I get to the futuristic world? I know the steps, but
Exactly.
now what do I do? Because you're always
Exactly.
thinking ahead, right?
That's right. So it's like, oh, I'm missing
You need
something
the
here.
execution part. Excellent. Well, as someone high futuristic, what do you need to grow and succeed? What helps you?
Mm. For me, Laura, it's time to plan and to think. And so I think probably most folks can identify with the fact I heard long ago the term the tyranny of the urgent, right? We've got so many tasks on our plate that it's hard to just break away and give ourselves time to think. And so for me, carving out that time, like I usually try to take at least the first half hour of the day, just time to just think and reflect. And then I'm trying more and more to build that into my schedule where I just have really quiet time to focus. And that's what really helps me to just really delight in those strengths and actually fuel them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, taking the time to see the
Hmm.
future and how you can get there. It makes sense to me.
Right.
Okay, so final question I have for you is what
Okay.
encouragement do you have for other people with the talent of futuristic?
Mm. Well, I would say lean into it, embrace it, um, give yourself time, that time to thoroughly, um, tap into that strength. Because I think maybe there's a lot of people, just like I just said, that maybe have this talent, but they don't really give themselves the time to fully embrace it. And because our world is so chaotic and busy and we have so many distractions. So, taking the time, take a little mini retreat. I've often recommended that to people over the years. Give yourself a night in a hotel, and or a couple nights at a nice retreat somewhere and just do your planning, whether it's a personal planning or business planning. So yeah, just give yourself the gift of time.
I like that. Give
Hmm.
embrace your talent and do what you need, do what you can, right, to
Hmm.
get what you need. And, just it is a chaotic world.
Yes,
Yes, we
that
all
is.
know that, but being able to do what energizes you is definitely helpful. So,
Exactly. So,
well, that's all I have for you, Nancy. I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me and for your insights. I think we all have learned a lot. Thank you.
thanks, Laura. It was a pleasure.